Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. We're going to be talking about first in our three big stories, what's going on in Kursk, and then we'll turn our attention to the significance of those days. So we're going to start here and we're going to look at this. So we all know what's going on in Kursk. I mean, we know that incursion is happening. And so to deny it seems kind of bizarre. I showed this yesterday. Che Bose was saying for the armchair delusionists celebrating the doomed Ukrainian Kursk offensive, three words: Robotny, Krinkny, and Belgorod. All the hallmarks are there: the fawning idiot press commentators in the West, the fake accounts of great victories from an army of Anon trolls. Remember? Okay, but to deny what's actually happening is the delusion, not to talk about it being delusional. It's really remarkable. Up to 10,000 Ukrainians may be involved in the operation in the Kursk region, according to Forbes. Now, I don't know it's that high. It involves at least three brigades, each with up to 2,000 troops. So maybe there's 6,000. I don't know. I initially started seeing 300, 1,000, a little more than 1,000. So 6,000, 10,000, we don't know, but there's a lot of Ukrainians flooding into Russia right now, into the Kursk region. Russia sends reinforcements to Kursk region, but yet to restore control as Ukrainian offensive continues. Our reporter from Moscow, this is the BBC, and they're targeting Ukrainians with air. Okay, these are things blowing up because it's coming from a plane, right? These are coming from pilots, right? So what are they going to do? They have to have some air superiority. There was another aid package, and Zelensky is saying that he thanks Joe Biden, both parties in Congress, the American people, for the new U.S. military aid package announced today. The package includes Stingers and HIMARS, various anti-tank missiles, as well as 155 millimeter ammunition and other equipment. But we're still asking for approval, like as of this morning, still asking for approval for ATACMS. Like if they could use ATACMS in the Kursk region, they could not just push those planes back, but do some significant damage to the airfields beyond that. Okay, Ukraine wipes out an entire battalion inside Russia in one of the war's bloodiest strikes. So I talked about this just a little bit ago in Kursk on Fire. This video I just put out just before I started recording this one. It's Artur Rehi was talking about how his whole battalion was wiped out. I think that's what we're talking about. And if it's not that, then it happened twice. Okay, Ukrainian rocket attack in one of the bloodiest strikes of the war. Nighttime footage emerged early on Friday showing what happened to appear to be a line of military trucks ablaze on a road in the Kursk region of Russia. 14 trucks that were in the convoy, Russian military blogger said, carried out with U.S. donated HIMARS rocket launchers. The convoy appeared to be transporting reinforcements to tackle Kyiv's surprise raid on the Kursk region. The Telegraph geolocated it to the E38 highway. They were armed, most likely a platoon per vehicle. A platoon, 14 platoons, that's 3 to 4 companies, an entire battalion destroyed. So, yeah, bad things are happening to the Russians as they were caught off guard and trying to catch up. This is what this kind of thing looks like. This is not the same one, but Russians sent another military column to the Kursk region. So if you're, I mean, this is just somebody driving down the road, seeing what it looks like. So, okay, I mean, it's there. You can see them. Okay. One thing that you won't find in Kursk Oblast, this is Operator Starsky, is civilian mass graves like in Bucha or Izium. That's right. Ukrainians are not Russians. They don't act like that. I bet nobody will be stealing toilets and air conditioners either. Ukraine is not Russia. Darth Putin, the parody site, says Ukraine is advancing so fast in Kursk because they aren't stopping to steal toilets. Remember when that was happening? Okay, so you're not allowed to use Western weapons across the border. Just change the borders. Hey, how about that? That's what Russia was trying to do. Okay, now Kadyrov is known for his TikTok warriors that are showing themselves to be so tough, and they're spraying and praying and looking like they're really big, bad, tough guys. Even if there's nobody that they're shooting at, they're trying to look like they're tough by shooting weapons. Okay, here's the commander of the Akhmat Special Forces, the Kadyrov Special Forces, said that some leaders, he's the commander of the Chechens, some leaders of the Ministry of Defense, as I understand it, deceived us so much, deceived us, and it turned out that they deceived themselves. Oh, the irony. Yeah, because that's what happens in an authoritarian system because they're lying to each other and they're even convincing themselves that things are perhaps better than they actually are. Okay, I told you this was an important date, and here's one of the reasons why. Today marks 4 years since the fraudulent presidential election in Belarus led to a crackdown on civil society. Since then, there have been over 40,000 politically motivated arrests and over 12,000 politically motivated criminal cases. Now, I've been to Belarus, and it feels like something feels different when you're in Belarus. You feel almost constricted. Um, it's bizarre. Uh, on this date, 30 years ago, young anti-corruption activist Alexander Lukashenko won presidential election in Belarus. Since then, there have been no free elections. That's right. That's exactly what happened. Lukashenko won. He's been a dictator for 30 years. He's been, by that measure, more successful than Putin as a dictator. I mean, successful as a dictator is kind of, you know what I'm saying. Okay. In August 2020, mass protests began in Belarus, which could have been the beginning of a new era for the country. However, despite a huge wave of popular protests, the revolution was suppressed. It's important to realize the key lessons of those events, the need for clear leaders, decisive action, understanding that Lukashenko's regime is backed by Russia. The Belarusian people have shown incredible solidarity, which gives a hope for a better future. This kind of protest, doesn't that remind you of what you just witnessed in Georgia, in Venezuela, what you saw in Bangladesh recently? It's not related to Putin, but that same authoritarian regime the authoritarian nature of the regime is very similar to what you see in Russia or what you see in China or what you see in Venezuela or wherever. Okay. On this day, 50 years ago, Nixon resigned. How about that? Again, this day, it's quite a day. Okay, nice change from their usual policy. This was Gary Kasparov just 2 days ago, writing a nice change from their usual policy of warning allies not to attack enemies. Like, hey, you're a friend, you better not do this or else. But considering their track record, were concessions also offered to the Islamic Republic of Terror in exchange for not attacking Israel? So he's speculating about that because Iran hasn't attacked Israel yet, although they've promised to after things that have happened between Iran and Israel. Well, here's Ryan McBeth, and he's going to try to answer the question.
Why hasn't Iran struck back at Israel yet? Now, this is kind of interesting because Iran really is on a deadline here. Yeah, it's only going to take a finite amount of time to load rockets onto launchers or to load these rockets onto the TELs or transport erector launchers. But for every day that Iran delays attacking Israel, that's another day that American carrier strike groups that are on their way to the Middle East have to cover that distance. So for every day that Iran delays, it makes the consequences of actually launching worse.
Yeah, and so when they launched 300, 320 missiles and got basically nothing through before because America, the Brits, the Saudis, Israel were all shooting them down, they're making it worse. Do they not want to do it, or are they just dumb, or are they waiting for something, or what's going on?
You can
We'll
think
try to
of
answer.
two options here. The first option is that Iran doesn't actually intend to strike anybody, or perhaps they're trying to get all their proxies in place to have their proxies actually perform some kind of strike against Israel. But there is one other thing, and some of this is kind of superstition. You know how people say celebrities always die in threes? Well, there's this holiday called Tisha B'Av, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but I'm sure a lot of my Israeli fans will let me know in the comments.
Join the club, man. I can't pronounce anything.
That's how wrong I am. But Tisha B'Av is basically the 9th of Av, and Av is a certain month in the Jewish calendar, or I guess the Hebrew calendar. And what's kind of interesting is that Tish B'Av it's a day when a lot of bad things happen. A number of disasters in Jewish history happened on that day. Supposedly the first temple was destroyed, so was the second temple. And there are other items throughout history, such as expulsions of Jews, that all happened on or around that particular day. That's kind of why I say it's kind of like the celebrity death thing, because something might happen close to Tish B'Av, and people are like, oh, well, it happened on Tish B'Av, when really it happened like 2 days earlier. But around that time seems to be the big thing. So the question is, would Iran actually wait for that day to launch some sort of attack? And I think that the answer might actually be yes, because there might be some sort of psychological factor in executing a devastating attack on that particular day. However, I think if that day passes, and Tish B'Av, by the way, would technically be the 12th of August today. So I think if the 12th of August passes, the likelihood of Iran actually launching an attack will be a lot lower because they sort of missed their window, and American carrier strike groups will just be too close, and it'll just be too dangerous for them to do anything. And honestly, this would be the ideal outcome. Yes, Israel struck a high-ranking non-state actor inside of Iran, and that's very embarrassing. But do you know what else is embarrassing? Losing your entire freaking country.
Okay, so Tish B'Av is not today, but it's things happening around this day. And today was also the day with Belarus, with Nixon. It's a weird confluence of events all showing up at the same time. Okay, let's keep moving. These two ladies are Ukrainian canoeists that won the silver medal. They had "I am Ukrainian" on their canoe, and the International Olympic Committee called it propaganda and asked them to remove it from the competition. Like if I had "I'm an American" on my canoe, I don't know that anybody would have said anything about it. Or somebody had "I'm Canadian" or "I'm British" or "I'm Australian," whatever. They wouldn't have said it, but because this is associated now with the Ukraine war, it's propaganda somehow. Okay. Anton Goroshenko shows this. This map shows all the countries in the history of humankind that have ever militarily liberated part of the territory of the world's nuclear powers. Think about that. The only country, Ukraine, is highlighted in red and has already made history. We have come an incredible way over the years from whose is Crimea to whose is Kursk. The terrible war continues, but I'm proud of my country and our people, and thanks to everyone who is with us. Together we will win. Well, we're proud of you too. I mean, it's really impressive what Ukraine's been able to do. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.